Welcome to a special edition of Mayday, the Wild Card preview. Now, this week, the first week of the playoffs, we're not going to be having a live show on Wednesday because it's right in the middle of some of the games. This is going to be something we're going to mess around with doing throughout October. Now, before we get into it, real quick, check out the Substack. We have all kinds of goodies over there, articles written by producer Henry and producer David and myself. We also have a newsletter that will keep you up to date on everything we're making here on Mayday and on More Mayday, our second channel. Speaking of which, you should go subscribe to that so you never miss any videos in the future. All right, let's get right into our preview. Mets slow motion collapse is now complete as they went into game 162 on Sunday, needing a win and needing the Reds to lose. The Reds did lose, but the Mets got shut out 4-0 and are officially eliminated. On June 12th, the Mets had the best record in the major leagues, and since that point, they went 38-55. Good for 25th best record in baseball. They were leading the NL East by 5.5 games and the Wild Card by 8.5 games. As we knew going in, the Phillies and the Mets were going to have a big battle in front of them for the season, and we thought that this was going to come down to the wire. Unfortunately, a slow decay, mostly in the starting pitching category for the Mets, led to a lot of question marks and series loss after series loss. Additionally, within 2 hours of the season ending, this man, Pete Alonso, announced that he was going to opt out of his contract and test free agency once again. You may remember he tried doing this last year as well and ended up back with the Mets. After a lukewarm free agency stint, he is represented by Scott Boras, so we will see how this goes. But I will say he did have a much better platform year this time around, and first base is something that a lot of teams I think are going to value a little bit more even this year. So there's going to be more options. We'll see how it pans out. That wasn't the only collapse we had, as the Cleveland Guardians finished their surge back to take out the Detroit Tigers for the top of the Central Division and home field advantage, as they're playing those same Tigers in the first round, the wild card round of the playoffs. Pictured here, Brian Rocchio hit a dramatic walk-off home run to clinch it, even though Detroit dropped their game 4-3 on Sunday to the Red Sox, so it didn't really matter because they had the tiebreak. Momentum is momentum, and you'll take everything you can get going into the playoffs. Now, this was historic for a lot of reasons, and you guys know, because we talked about this during the show last week, the Tigers had a 10.5 game lead on September 1st and lost that entire lead to also fall behind a game and lose the division, which is the biggest collapse in September in the history of baseball. They had a 15.5 game lead in July, not even over these Guardians, over the Royals. Now that 15.5 game swing is the biggest collapse in history. In the modern era, nothing really even comes close. And to find the previous record, you have to go all the way back to the 1914 Braves, who lost a 15 game lead. It seems like this season was a season of record breaking, and this is no exception. The Guardians also became just the 4th team in MLB history to lose 10 games in a row at some point in the season and then make the playoffs. They also have one of the lowest batting averages of a team that ever make the playoffs as well. So pitching is their strength, as it usually is, but this year more than ever. And results weren't the only adversity they overcame. Remember, they lost their all-star closer Emmanuel Clase and a quality starting pitcher in Luis Ortiz to suspensions for suspicion of gambling activity or something like that. I don't know what it's officially called, but they didn't have them all year either. They still don't know what's going to happen there. So to make the playoffs after all of that is truly impressive. And finally, Clayton Kershaw is not on the Dodgers playoff roster for the wild card round, where they take on the Cincinnati Reds. As you remember, the Cincinnati Reds caught the New York Mets and are now in the playoffs. Now, the wild card is a 3-game series, and they are at home. On paper, they should have a division series, and we should have a chance to have Clayton Kershaw added back onto the roster and possibly see him pitch again. But if we don't, and if the Dodgers are unable to advance past the wild card round, Clayton Kershaw's season and career is effectively over. Fortunately for him, he threw a gem in Seattle and got his own standing ovation in an away game as he walked off the mound. Now let's talk about what I think the keys of these series are coming up and how I think they're going to shake out. Let's start with Detroit versus Cleveland. Once again, we've seen these guys go at it quite a bit in the last 2 weeks. They're playing for the 3rd week in a row on the same days of the week, which is just a weird coincidence. As we know, the Cleveland Guardians took 5 of those 6, and the first 5 to put the dagger in the Detroit Tigers, fully taking the momentum and completely removing any wind from the Tigers' sails to get back on the horse. Whoa, those were two weird metaphors thrown together. Sorry about that. So they have the 1 p.m. Eastern time games every single day, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. That is the first game, which is noon Central. So these guys are going to be playing 3 noon games in a row, which is interesting to say the least. It's not the easiest adjustment to make when you play at night. Usually, you never usually play 3-day games in a row. So that's just something to keep in mind. Before we get into what I think each team needs to do to win this series, just one little interesting thing that happened. The Guardians ended up being 88-74, winning the division, and the Tigers went 87-75. These were my predictions going into the season. What? I got the Tigers exactly right, and I got the Cleveland Guardians different by 1 game. And honestly, I would say Riley Green's probably the MVP, and Jose Ramirez is definitely the MVP of his team. So maybe I'm getting better at this. I don't know. Guardians win will absolutely depend on their starting pitching staying dominant. Their offense has not really gotten started in these last 30 games. When they made their run, it was all starting pitching. Their starting pitching was so good, leading the league in ERA over those 30 days in September. They didn't have a super high average, but their starting pitching did go 19 straight games without anyone allowing over 2 runs. That is incredible. We've seen Gavin Williams come into his own. Tanner Bybee has been rock solid, as is been expected of him at this point. And Slade Ciccone, this guy, has been nails as well. Those are going to be your 3 starters for this series. And if you're a betting man, which I know a lot of you are, I mean, these guys are dialed, and it's all about being dialed in at the right time. Right now is the playoffs. It's time to do it now. And by all accounts, they are cooking right at the right time. Now, they're not going to score a lot of runs. As the playoffs play out, home runs are usually a big issue or the difference maker for most teams. And so it's about avoiding those home runs or keeping them to solo shots. There's no better staff right now at doing that. The Tigers can win on the back of this gentleman, very likely the AL Cy Young Award winner this year, though it got very, very close there at the end. It's pretty much a coin flip between him and Garrett Crochet, who I'll talk about in just a moment. He's your number 1. He is your ace, and he is the guy you want on game 1. Game 1 is going to be massive in the series. It's going to be momentum-based, and there is no one you would rather have on the mound than Tarik Skubal. If they're going to win this series, they have to win game 1, and they have to win game 1 by using this guy to absolutely dominate the other lineup. Game 1 is so important in a 3-game series. Couple key matchups. Harry Carpenter going to be facing 3 right-handed starting pitchers for the Cleveland Guardians that I just mentioned, and that means he will most likely be in all 3 games in the starting lineup. 23 of his 26 home runs this year have been against right-handed pitchers. So if the Detroit Tigers are going to turn this thing around and win the series that actually matters here in the playoffs, Harry Carpenter is going to have to be a big part of that. On the flip side, I mean, it's Jose Ramirez. Now, historically, he's been a little bit quieter than I think he would like in the playoffs, though he hasn't been bad. He just isn't doing the damage they count on him to do during the season, especially for a fairly anemic offense overall. That said, he is one of the best switch hitters in the game in terms of, parity on both sides. You can't just turn him around and get better outcomes. It's just not something that you can count on with this guy, which makes doing the lefty-righty matchup thing, which Detroit loves to do, using their bullpen, it's one of AJ Hinch's hallmarks, is really tough to do when this guy's in the middle lineup. You can't really just add him into this platoon situation. So you have to really take in those decisions if a lefty is going to face him or a righty is going to face him. And it just so turns out that he historically has been much better right-handed in terms of production in the playoffs. So pay attention if they want to go to Tyler Holton or any other lefty earlier in the game, because their lefties tend to be more bulk guys that can play multiple innings. That means they're going to get probably a lot of right-handed Jose Ramirez. That is an X factor a little bit for the Cleveland Guardians. Now, I added another segment in here called the Wild Cards. A couple of guys that I think are maybe overlooked and could possibly be the MVP of a series if they go off. For the Guardians, this man, the second most productive hitter in their lineup, Kyle Manzardo. Great mustache, not as good of a beard, but he can swing it. So if Jose is the guy that is getting avoided, Kyle Manzardo is going to have to step up. Now, he is a left-handed hitter. He's going to face those left-handed guys. This is still going to line up. Do we put him right behind Jose Ramirez? Do we put a buffer in the middle? What do we do? How do we set up our lineup? It's going to be interesting to see how Stephen Vogt approaches the situation. On the other side, Zach McKinstry needs to play a big role. He's been a little quiet for this last month. On the season, he has a top 3 platoon split, and they're reversed. So like he hits lefties really well. The Guardians are going to have several lefties out on the bullpen to preferably go after Kerry Carpenter or make sure he doesn't hurt them. So what does that mean? Zach McKinstry can then take advantage of those situations. He has really come into his own. He's been a lot more clutch than he's been in the past. I think this is a guy quietly hit a homer or two and really be the difference maker in these games. And if a lefty comes in, even better. In our next series, we have the San Diego Padres versus the Chicago Cubs. One of the more interesting situations or games I think that we have out there. This series you will be able to watch on ABC, and all 3 games start at 3 p.m. Eastern time. Once again, we have a 2 p.m. Central, so it is a day game. In that context, advantage Cubs. They play a whole lot of day games, and they have home field advantage as well. So, I mean, let's call it a double advantage. For the season series, it was a 3-3 split. So these teams have been pretty evenly matched, and both of them were playing fairly well at the end of the season. Not really going crazy, but playing about where they played all year and just solidified themselves into some playoff position. Why the Cubs might win. Defense. This gentleman, PCA in center field, along with the rest of that defense behind him, and the Nico Horners, the Ian Haps. They're very athletic. They make the plays they're supposed to make, and they make the plays they might not make. Kyle Tucker in right, presuming he's going to play in the playoffs here. Matt Shaw at third, Michael Busch at first. They've been very quality, very locked down defense, and that has made them keep scores where they should be so that their potent offense can then take over. Pitching has never been their strength. It has always been their offense, but they've been doing that all year, so I anticipate that being a strength for them in the series. On the Padres side, it's the bullpen. This gentleman, Adrian Morejon, 12 wins on the season, like 8th or 9th in the league, and he is a reliever. He is my reliever of the year, but you add Mason Miller, you add Jeremiah Estrada, and you add Robert Suarez. Like, this is probably the most potent bullpen that is in this wild card round. So if they are able to get a lead, they are very likely to hold that lead. They have a pretty good offense as well. They can score runs. The problem is, Yu Darvish and Michael King haven't really been shown a lot this year, and it's been down year especially for the Darvish and the C side. It'll be interesting to see where their starting pitchers factor in, but if they have a lead going into that 5th or 6th inning, hand it off these 4 guys, 3-game series. It's going to be all hands on deck. One of the key storylines, Mason Miller. How are they going to use him? He has been used in multiple innings situations before. He can go out and get you, 4, 5, 6 outs, and he can bridge if you want. He has struck out over half of the hitters he has faced since he's been with the Padres. So it is going to be interesting to see how soon he comes into a game in this series to try to either stem the bleeding or get you to the other guys in the back end that have been rock solid all year. Now, the wild cards for this series, in my opinion, are 1, Michael Busch, one of the best first basemen by statistics in the league. He led the Cubs in home runs this year with 32, and he was 3rd in RBIs with 90. He has been very productive. He gets on base, he walks, and he is kind of under the radar a little bit. So I know a lot of Cubs fans are like, Michael Busch is under the radar. For the rest of the league, he kind of is. You think of Pico Armstrong, you think of Kyle Tucker, you think of even Seiya Suzuki before you think of him. So I think if the Cubs are going to do this thing and do it in a big way, this gentleman is going to have a lot to do with it. And then on the other side, it's El Nino, man. Like, the guy's electric. He takes over games. He makes it quiet or he makes it loud. It is just the way that he operates, and I'm excited to see a healthy Fernando Tatis Jr. in a playoff series. Does he rise to the occasion? Does he disappear? It's going to be important one way or the other for the San Diego Padres. If they want to make a real run at this thing and win their first World Series in franchise history, El Nino is going to have to be the guy, Fernando Tatis Jr. Red Sox first, Yankees. Oof, this one's going to be a fun one with the Red Sox going to the Bronx to take on the Yankees, even though they won 5 of the 7 games there this year. Now, the Red Sox took the whole series 9-4, but as we know, recent years, Phillies versus Braves, these things don't really matter right now. October's a different beast, and the regular season dominance does not matter, but 9-4, that's enough of an advantage one direction that guys are thinking about it and they know about it. Now, these are the primetime games, all at 6 p.m. Eastern time on ESPN. So It's going to be the same order every single day for all 3 days. So the Yankees can win with the boppers. We have Aaron Judge, though they've been able to kind of push through. They went all the way to the World Series without him really taking off. He had a few home runs that were kind of backbreakers, but it wasn't like the Aaron Judge show like it's been all year. He's had a historic season, a very likely MVP season. He needs to be a big part of the boppers. They lead the league in home runs like they always do. They're one of the most potent offenses they have been all year, and they have some 1A and 1B aces with Rodon and Fried on the mound. We'll see who pitches game 3, but it might not matter. They're gonna have to hit the homers, but that is why they are dangerous. That is what works in the playoffs, is you put pitchers under pressure, you make them make a mistake, and if those mistakes turn into runs immediately, more often than other teams, those teams tend to be able to bury their opponents. And the flip side, the Red Sox, if they get the lead, they need to keep it. And Garrett Whitlock and Aroldis Chapman, by all accounts, have done that, and they have done it every single time for the most part. I'm feeling very confident about these two guys having a lead going the 8th and the 9th. It's just going to be about having that lead. The wild card series are almost always determined by the team that wins the first game. For our key matchup, just mentioned it, it's Garrett Crochet versus Aaron Judge. Now, during this season, Aaron Judge was 2 for 13 off Crochet with 10 strikeouts. There was a point where he had 6 straight. And then what did he do? He hit one of his 2 solo home runs that account for both hits. In the world of all or nothing, these two guys are the epitome. Do we want an entire team doing that stuff? Not really. But do we want one matchup to come out that way every single time? I kind of like that. Flames on flames, power on power type of guys. So I can't wait to see them match up in the Bronx here on Tuesday. Now let's talk about the wild cards, and I think you're going to find these ones interesting. For the Red Sox, it is Romy Gonzalez. Put some respect on this man's name. He absolutely destroys left-handed pitching, 2 of which he is going to face in game 1 and 2. This is a stat line against lefties this year. 2025, he has 95 games, 143 plate appearances, 130 at-bats. He's got 43 hits, 7 home runs, 25 RBIs. Good for a triple slash of 331, 378, and a 600 slug. Good for a 978 OPS. He is dunking on lefties. He's one of the best righty v lefty platoon guys in the league, and is a big reason why they have beat the Yankees so bad this year. So, Romy Gonzalez, my dark horse, my Steve Pearce, if you will, be the MVP of this series if the Red Sox are able to pull it off. And on the other side, Mr. Giancarlo Stanton is the X factor. Once again, he's healthy. All of his joints coming apart from swinging so hard has seemed to be resolved. He is a guy that you have to worry about no matter how he has done this season. You have to think about him in that lineup, and with Aaron Judge and the other guys who can hit home runs, like, again, sometimes he gets looked over a little bit and then he kills you. And not only does he kill you, he does it when there's guys on base. If he's making good swing decisions and making guys make mistakes to him, we could see another big October from the big man. His career playoff stat line, 259 hitter, 355 on-base percentage, 630 slugging for a 984 career OPS in the playoffs. That's pretty good. In the final matchup, the Cincinnati Reds versus the LA Dodgers. Now, I didn't see this coming, but it is interesting for me because I think the Reds have a few weapons that match up better than you would think. These guys are now the West Coast primetime game, 9 p.m. Eastern after the Red Sox and Yankees. So it definitely feels like 3 days of like NFL Sunday, but in a row. That's why I love baseball playoffs so much, is because there's so many games to keep track of. So season series, not good for the Reds as they dropped 5 of the 6 and they were outscored 30-15 by the Dodgers in those matchups. That's not a great sign, but there is hope, I think, for Cincinnati Reds fans. This is how the Dodgers can win, though. Starting pitching. We have Yoshi Yamamoto, we have Shohei Ohtani, and we got Blake Snell slated to throw in the first 3 games, with Tyler Glass now waiting in the wings. Like, that is a very, very good rotation. It is a rotation that they did not have last year, and they won the World Series. And the bullpen seems to have gotten a new weapon in Roki Sasaki. He's looked good his last few outings throwing and just going forkball, fastball, which thank God he's doing that already. A lot of flexibility, a lot of guys that can throw at the front of the game. It's the big question is the back end. We'll see what Tanner Scott has to do with these wins, if anything at all. We'll see what Baron Kasparius lines up, but it's about the starting pitching here for the Dodgers. On the flip side, though, it's also starting pitching, as Hunter Green is a bona fide ace. He has really come into his own this year, and he is ready to pitch in the playoffs. Now, he's going into hostile territory. He is definitely a big beat off the crowd type of guy, so we'll see what he does in game one here, but he does seem to have taken that a step forward, and that is the guy you want on the mound. Lodolo behind him and Andrew Abbott, who has just been rock solid. That's a pretty good 1-2-3 in a 3-game series. Now, it's about game one, and you want to have ace on ace, and Yamamoto versus Hunter Green is going to be one of the best ones to watch. And our big key storyline, maybe the easiest one to probably predict, Shohei Ohtani is going to have a big impact on the series because he is, for the first time in the playoffs, pitching and hitting. Got hit 50-plus home runs once again. He is the presumed NL MVP once again, and he's throwing 100 miles an hour. Now, what that means in a playoff series, what can you truly ask from your star two-way player with the amount of adrenaline being used and how far into the season we are? Like, it's going to be interesting to see if one starts to hurt the other because it's just so hard to recover in these series. So something to pay attention to, but again, if the Dodgers want to be successful, if they want to repeat, at some point, it's going to have to be the Shohei Ohtani show. So let's pay attention to that. His name's Showtime for a reason. And the wild cards. There's a lot of quality hitters on the Reds. Okay. They have a lot of guys who have good bat to ball skills, guys who can shoot the ball around the field, guys who can go over the fence. But of everyone, with the guy with the most experience in the playoffs is this man, ex-Dodger Gavin Lux. He's also done a very good job of putting quality at bats together, taking his walks, moving runners, doing all the little things well. He has been the most consistent guy in their lineup. Now, he's only got 5 home runs. He's not going to go up here and hit a bunch of homers. But what he will do is take that extra base. He will move the guy over. He will take his walks. He will get long at bats going. These are all things that they're going to need, especially with Elly De La Cruz, who is probably the spark plug, but he's more of a free swinger. You need guys who go up there and put really quality bats together so that the other guys who maybe don't do that as much can take the big swings. And he is going to be kind of that X factor in that side of things. And for the Dodgers, Mr. 15 playoff home runs himself, Kike Hernandez, is ready to go again. We'll see what he turns on in October. He had a big home run in Seattle in the last series, looking like he's getting ready to take off here in the playoffs once again. He's a career 278 hitter in the playoffs, but he is a 236 for his career. He's got 15 home runs and 35 RBIs in 86 playoff games, and he's got a career 874 OPS in the playoffs. There's always a danger of Kike Hernandez taking over a playoff series. How do I think this first round is going to go? In that first series, I have the Detroit Tigers taking it 2-1, completely flipping the collapse on its head on the back of Tarek Skubal. I think this goes to game 3. I think it is a crazy back and forth game, and I think there is a big 3-run homer hit by somebody on the Tigers that ends up being the backbreaker, and they pull it off. I could be wrong. I am a lot. In the next game, Boston versus the Yankees. I have the Yankees taking that one 2-1. Also goes to game 3. I think we see Louis Heel at some point. It is a slugfest in those 2 games. I have the Yankees taking game 1 behind Fried over Crochet. It just feels to me like the Yankees are playing better baseball right now. They have a little bit more momentum. Moving over to the other side, let's do Cubs versus San Diego. And I have the Cubs taking that one 2-0. San Diego is unable to get the starting pitching going. I think this is like not a good matchup between scuffling, Dylan Cease and Yu Darvish against a tough lineup to navigate. And finally, we have Cincinnati and LA. And unfortunately for Cincinnati, I just don't think LA is going to be taken down in the first series, especially with the starting pitching that they have. It's just one MVP candidate after another MVP candidate. And I think experience is going to matter a lot here. Not that I think that, the Reds are going to get blown out and it's going to be ugly, but I just think that the Dodgers are just the better team. And the Reds weren't necessarily super hot at the end of the year. They didn't go take it from the Mets per se. The Mets kind of handed it to them. They were just pretty good. I got that 2-0 series, and I got the Dodgers moving on to play the Phillies, and that is my second round. Now I'm going to do another one of these videos for the next round, so be on the lookout for that. So that is my wild card preview. Let me know down in the comments what you think. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss anything in the future. I will see you next time on Mayday. Drink your water, watch your baseball, cheer for your team, and let's see who takes the World Series this year. Hopefully it's someone who's never won one. I don't know. I'm being biased. Don't yell at me. I'll see you guys. I'll see you next time.